I decided to take a break because there's a lot of information. But if you're watching this on the video, this is part 2 of the encyclopedia, so you can get everything you need to know when you're starting up, or even if you've been playing and just feel like you got straight to playing and might have missed some details. You can find everything, all the little nooks and crannies where you can get information, all the explanations, all that in one place. The reason why I did this is because I wish something like this existed for myself as I got started, but fortunately for me, I had the community, which this is actually live on stream now for those of you watching later on when I put this in a video. So, you've seen we left off at I believe it was inside the match and all of the game modes, right? Remember, this is from a previous stream. So, game plan, we're actually going to skip and go last because there's a lot of information in that. And then it only leaves 3 more sections, right? So, if you noticed, there's a ton of information in eFootball, which makes one of these necessary. But I will say what Konami does do a good job of, better than any other game, is explaining all of this. You can actually find all this information, and then little stuff like at the bottom where you might press triangle, or at the top, there'll be more fine print, right? So you have information with a lot of detail, and then even more detail within. So you'll see that as we go some more, but you've already seen that up to this point in book 1. So without further yapping, let's get into the next section, which is my team. So you enter my team, and this essentially is a culmination of what your game plan will consist of. You have your players, your managers, right? And then you have uniforms. That part isn't in game plan. But at the bottom, you see a very important part that you need to know, because I wish I knew it before I started boosting all my players up as far as their skill training, I should say. Not boosters. I shouldn't have used that word, but skill training. Excuse me. So you see at the bottom of the screen, you press square. In development, you have auto and manual. It's automatically set to auto when you start, and therefore I didn't even realize this was in this part of the menu. I believe that they would have done a lot better job, and players would have been happier if this was right in the section where you actually put the skill training program, because then you know that you have this option. So for every player I have so far, I did auto development. As you see here, when a player acquires progression points, you can now have the points allocated automatically. However, this is what many players recommend. Players will develop through manual allocation of progression points they acquire. You go home, my team, players, select the player you want to develop, and then use player progression to allocate progression points, right? So I'll show you where that is here shortly. You can also do it within game plan, which is where I did it, and therefore I didn't see this. Even if I could have seen it at the bottom, one of the big things I was doing at the beginning is I was missing these areas at the bottom. So make sure this is set to manual first of all. All right, then you go out. If you want to add player slots, maybe you have a ton of players, right? And you need more, you don't want to get rid of players. You can add player slots here. You see a hefty cost, 500K, but you can add players. Then you'll go in here, and you have this view when you show up. Now what this lock is as I show you, I'll press square, and I can change my selection view, and now I can choose all of these players to then release, and when I release them, I will get training programs. Sometimes if they're top players, like if I release a Rojo, I would get some booster coins or tokens, whatever you want to call it. So the better the player you release, the more rewards you get. There is no transfer market where you can list players for sale. So if you're coming from FC, this would be the most similar to that. You release them and you get credit for them, right? But there is no transfer market or anything like that. So what you do then, so you don't accidentally highlight them and get rid of them, is you go in, player actions, and you can lock and unlock. So now I unlocked Araujo, or sorry, who did I unlock? I unlocked Pacho, and then I would go in and click click into the player view, player actions, lock. So now I can't release a player. It's very important that you do that. Otherwise, you may be going through to release certain players that you don't need, and you mistakenly, when you're releasing a bunch, highlight McAllister or Rudiger, and now you just release and can't get back one of your best players, it is something that, like I said in the previous video, I believe I said it at least in that one, that would be something to make you cry. Or at least it was in one of the previous videos. So make sure you lock your players. Then you can go in from here, you go action, you can change and choose selection view, or you can take it off. You can also sort your players, filter your players. You can go to the display where you can see their actual cards of your different players within your team, right? So then you go back, and then if you click X, you can actually go and see all of your player details. And it gives you another option in the bottom. You click square, and you have player actions. This is the player progression screen. Now you see my players all the way boosted. However, when I had this, okay, to automatic, none of this was available. It didn't say any of this. So every time it would just say training program, allocate training program. Now that it's manual, if I had, let's say, you see 0 of 52. So look, I can take these points down and I can allocate them elsewhere. You see what I'm saying? But when I was developing this player up, I could have easily took all, like, whatever his stage was from the lowest he was, like the 85 rated, easily put everything at, I don't know, where is it? Defending. Just loaded it all into defending. I could have put maybe 4 at aerial strength and put 10 at lower body strength. You get what I'm saying? And you can see different builds that players, make as they go. But this should have been manual all the way through. Now, just like in last video, I'm actually learning something new right here. I did not realize that I could take these points back and re-put them. So, that is something that I'll absolutely be doing. So if I go back here, he's now an 85 rated player again. But when I go to player progression, right, I can go in and take these points and put them wherever I want to make him a 98 rated player. So I will do that later on, but it's pretty cool that you can do that. So I learned something new there. If you did like me and you're seeing this afterwards and you automatically trained your player up, just know that you can go and move his ranking around, which is awesome. So I will be doing that. Now, booster... Oh, wait. We're not getting into that. We're doing game plan last. So this is what you would go into for your players. The main thing I want to show you out of this is you can toggle through your players. But right here, this development, you want this on manual, not auto. All right. Moving on. The managers. This is where you'd have your different managers. Now, as you go, you might have 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, however many. For me, all I ever use is quick counter or long ball counter. Maybe eventually I'll use possession game, out wide, or long ball, in which case I can get another manager. But previously, when I didn't have a manager that could that was proficient, I guess you could say, in both quick counter and long ball counter, I would literally have Arteta for quick counter and then Valbuena for long ball. And what that meant was I could only use, I could only use one of these play styles a game. I could not switch them up. Now I have one tactic with quick counter and one with long ball, and I could literally switch within game, which comes in handy big time. That's why I spent $5 to get the coins to buy Gasparini, because this comes in handy huge. Then he's got the physical contact boost. We already talked about that previously when we showed you how to purchase him. So all your managers you have would be in here, even outside of your active managers. So you can see all the managers. Then these are the uniforms, right? You have whatever team, which I'll show you that when we go in. You have whichever team you kind of use their stadium and whatnot. So you have their home and away. I have LAFC. Then you get the uniforms they give you. Now, this is the area I don't like as far as eFootball. All they'd have to do is put a way that you could randomly pick your uniforms, right? Meaning, if I want the Ramadan to be my home, I can make that my home uniform. If I want Carnival to be my home or away, I can make that. So it, defaults to those every game. However, what happens is these two are defaulted to, or whatever team you choose, like when you get to that menu. and then you'd have to switch to these every time. Does it take forever? No, but it would be very easy, and it would be way cooler if you didn't have to necessarily tie to a team. You would just have your own team name you type in, your own abbreviation, and then a home and an away, similar to how FC does it. Hopefully they change that. It's a very simple addition, but, players like details like that. They're a very detailed company. I'm surprised they don't do something like that. But this is where you can find all three. The most important part is at the bottom, the development on manual, and then if you want to add players, you can add players there. Moving on to contract. Another important area if you plan on purchasing players, and even if you don't plan on purchasing them with like the coins with your own money, you're going to definitely be in this standard player list. So we'll go through everything. Starting with manager list, this is where you'd buy standard managers, right? There are different prices based on, you see Luis A. Roman. If I click in, you click X, you see he has possession game, but he also could play quick counter just at a much lower. Your players will have a decently lower attribute total because quick counter is a 72, whereas possession game proficiency is an 88. You see my Gasparini has quick counter and long ball counter, but they're both at 88. His coaching affinity, as they call it, star players, increases to 5-star players by 100%. So that is the highest rated standard manager you could get. You see here, I told you I had Valbuena. I had the second highest, and it's because long ball counter and quick counter are the two most popular. He has 85 on long ball counter, and DF players get 300% increase in experience points. Then you go down, and there's Gasparini, by the way, the regular Gasparini, who only has quick counter. He doesn't have the long ball counter, a different coaching affinity. So you see, just like with players, there's multiple versions. I had this Mikel Arteta, and you see here, I keep clicking the wrong button, but he has both possession game and quick counter. However, I didn't use possession game, and his quick counter wasn't the highest. So instead of maybe 100 overall player, you might have it might be like 97, right? So it makes quite a difference when you have this as opposed to like a Gasparini or someone with a booster. So it is well worth it, and it's manageable for even free-to-play players. I mean, you could put $5 in if it's worth it to you to use multiple play styles in a game. Moving on from there, the second least thing I'd say you would use, it might be tied with packs, but the standard player list are tickets. I don't have any standard player tickets. I've never had them, right? So whenever you come across standard player tickets and you're like, what the heck are these? This is where you'd go. All right, that's about all I can tell you for that. You can easily look up more, but at least you know where the standard player tickets are. They're within the contract session. Next is packs. This is where, as you can see, you can purchase, and this jersey's awesome, but this kit's awesome. If I could default to this and then have to go change it every game because I know I just forget all the time, I would purchase this for $1. Easily purchase this for $1. You see the Gasparini? As you can see, I already bought him. And this is what we went through earlier. We already, checked this stuff out. But where we went through it at, instead of packs, we were going through back here. Like I said, there's multiple areas to get through. We went up at the top to shop, into packs is up here. So you see it's in two different spots, right? So we already went through this, but it's not that we went in the same one. And the game just froze. So we'll have to definitely cut this out in the video, but it's been doing this. It's kind of odd. We'll make sure in the video that this part gets cut out so you don't have to just sit here and stare at the screen. But my point is, that's what I was saying earlier. eFootball is very good at, making sure that everything is found, but some stuff, it's found in multiple areas. So if they don't explain it multiple times, you can at least find it in multiple areas. So we've already went over packs in the shop area. Standard player tickets, never use them. If you come across them, this is where you find them. We went across standard managers. Now, before we get into the special players, we go to standard player list. Everybody gets a starter team when they start. Usually they'll give you X amount of players as well that you can build up, and they'll be better than those super low rated players you get. But as you play, you're grinding the game, you get the G points. As you can see, I have 185K because I traded mine in for some training programs and stuff. But you can see here, you can get Vinny Jr., the most expensive player, at 640K. Rodri, Kylian Mbappe at 450K. These are the last 2 of the 3 players that I have in my squad. The last two standard. I never owned Rodri, right? Maybe eventually I'll get him because he is an anchor man, as you see. And I only have 1 anchor man currently. So wouldn't be a bad player to get. But both Vinny and Killian are so good that even as standard players, they can hang at least. I'm not saying there aren't better boosted players, epics, Showtime card, whatever, stuff like that. Whatever the special cards are, I'm saying that these 2 can just hang with them. They're not better or even as good as some of them, but they're at least up there. And same with this man down here. He's pretty low down the list, but he is phenomenal. The best standard, player list center back that I use is Van Dijk. And let's see who is ranked above him. Saliba, I could see that. He did feel good when I used him in like a tournament where I was Arsenal. He did feel good as far as just being able to tackle, contribute in the air, win the ball, just didn't get burned a lot. So very good. So Van Dijk is also on my team. So I have Vinny, Killian, and Van Dijk. If that gives you an idea of, how many standard players will stay in your team. They'll just act as, I guess you could say, fill-ins as you grind your way up, and then depending on if you put some of your own money in or not. If you don't, then yes, some of these top standard players will remain in your team as you continue to grind, as the game continues to give you like different players through objectives or whatever the case may be. You'll slowly but surely get more and more special players, and the standard players will weave their way out. But that's where you can find them and purchase them as you get G points. Then, last but not least, we go to the special player list. This is where you can find all of what I call the promos, right? So first off, we'll start at the very end. These are called nominating contract players. You see here, as I go, and you've seen them in Team Pass 2, you can earn 5-star contracts, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, and even date of, I thought I was going to say 1-star. Date of validity, you see that 5-star, it gives a date. I guess that's a countdown. May 21st, 2025. That's when it expires. I'm assuming. I don't know. I never let it get that far because I do this. I go in. I see that these are the nominating players, right? I come in here. You see, I've already nominated these 4-star players. Talisca. The one thing about these Player of the Month cards, right? So you see here, these are both Player of the Months, right? You see here, these are Player of the Week cards. This is where I got Ferran Torres, as you see in the front middle. I have him. I went after this Lamine Yamal. I did not get him, right? From this list, I think I got, let's see, it will show me. I got these 3, Mkhitaryan, Pacho, who's on my bench, and then Otamendi. So Otamendi and Mkhitaryan were sold. Pacho's on my bench. From this list, I got Frimpong, which I sold, because I don't do the attacking wingbacks, and at wing forward he just does not as good. Courtois, who's my starting keeper, and then Ferran Torres, who's starting winger and will interchange with Gnabry, depending on Gnabry's form. Why I say that is because these Player of the Weeks, you get 3 pulls, all right? So you can't guarantee you pick, but it's 3 pulls out of 11 players, so you have a much better chance than, let's say, these Epic and Showtime cards. And then the nominating contracts tend to come from these Player of the Months. You go in, I get a 5-star contract. If you're at the point in the game where you can start or put these players on your bench, do so, but they do not level up. So what you see is what you get. Therefore, I take them, knowing that I'm not going to use them, right? I take any of the contracts that I get now that I'm past using any of these players. Then I simply release them, and this is what I was talking about. You can release them here. You can get booster tokens, training programs, and I get 67,000 G points. So that's for Player of the Month. You would think the Player of the Month cards would be better. The Player of the Weeks might be like that, but whatever. That's how they chose. Then you got these highlight players, as you call them, right? League selection players. And then, of course, the Showtime. This was a separate promo, or whatever you want to call it, to the National Guardians of Turkey. They had strikers as well, where you had an Mbappe, and then you had, I forgot who the other one was, but you had Mbappe with like a blitz curler. I almost went after them, but I decided, I'll wait, because again, I had to make the decision that I really was going to commit to this game, and now I'm glad though, because there's some stud players coming out. If you miss players, or if you feel like that FOMO feeling, do not worry. There's always great players coming, and you're going to have to practice restraint anyway, unless you're just uber rich and don't mind spending tons and tons and tons of money every time one of these comes out, because they come out very often. Okay, so you go here, and we'll go in order and talk about those more in a minute. But we talked about the nominating contract, or nominating contracts. I typically sell those. If you're at a point where you can use them, use them. These selection contracts you'll earn in a game, you'll earn playing, and then you'll play X amount. You'll go in, they'll give you one selection, and then you can see, as you see here, I picked these so far and sold them right away. None of them are usable as far as where I'm at and where my team's at. But that's how you get selection contracts. It's very similar to nominating. The only difference is you just get one selection of all the players. Here, it depends on how many stars it is. A 5-star nominating contract, 4-star, 3-star. Selection contract, it's just one. You pick up from any of these players in the list. You see another thing for nominating contracts here. You see American League International stars. They give you shots at, different opportunities to get free players. So you see here, out of this list, I've taken these 3 players and sold them immediately, right? But you get what I'm saying. These are essentially lower end players. Here is where the purchases start. Quite frankly, I am far past getting these players, but some players that are building their squads could use these players, and you can put $1 in, right? Because you're not able to get 10 at a time like you are in the other bigger ones. $1 in, and then you get one out of all these players. Now, the reason why it's only $1 is because, as you can see, they're all around the same level, right? They have the 3 marquee players at a full rating right here, but they're all around the same level. So you put $1 in, and you can get some of these league selection players or whatever the new promo is. This one's American League highlights. You go here, this another league selection, but for $1, you can actually get some pretty darn good players. You see, these are lower. So you would absolutely do this one first. But notice, this one's limited draw 20 out of 20. This one's limited draw 11 out of 11, right? Limited meaning you can only pick so much. You can't even get all of them. So out of this one, I'm sure if you look through the list, as you see, there's some good players in here. But the players right here on the front screen are the best players. I wouldn't mind having a Cabarsi that could possibly go to my bench. Obviously, with Rudiger and Rojo from the newest promo, they wouldn't make it. And then this Vinny Jr. looks like he's just a bit better than my Vinny, than the standard list Vinny, right? If anything, they're the same, or he's the same. But if you don't have Vinny, you could possibly get him here for if you don't have GP, or if he is a bit better, right? Keep going up. Another limited draw. You see, you could get a De Bruyne there, a Konate at center back. This is where I picked my Gnabry from. This was only the second time, from what I hear, they did a player where you could literally earn them through objectives, and you earn your one selection contract, as you see, and you just get one of these players. The other 4 you're not going to get. You don't just keep going. I took Serge Gnabry because he has edge crossing, which is a very rare skill set. Only problem is each of them kind of have one of these weaknesses, but Gnabry's, for instance, is his form's inconsistent. I already talked about these. You've seen who I got from these. And then we get into the big boy packs, right? All top-rated players, but you can't be fooled, because not always are they the top players, in these packs, not always are they going to be what we would call S-tier players. For instance, I would take Nakamura from here, but I would not want Nakata or Endo. And, that's a pretty big risk, putting in that much, money, whatever it takes. Say you put in 50, 60, and you get 2 epics, but you get Endo and Nakata. Well, that was a waste. So you have to be really strategic, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Over here, do I like Scholes? Yes, but will he get into my team? Probably not. Is he better than Mbappe or whoever? If I play attacking mid like Rafinha, the 99 Rafinha? Yeah, but not tremendously, right? Visionary pass is great. That's what my McAllister has, but not enough to where I'm going to put the money in to spend them. Same with Figo with the momentum dribbling. I'm going to wait for better packs. Same with this one. And then I thought about this Turkey one because all 3 of these players look good, but in particular, The Aktukoglu, the left wing there with the blitz curler, looks amazing. And obviously Guler looks very good too as an attacking midfielder. Both would easily come in and start over, who is that, Vinny or Mbappe, and then at attacking mid over either Mbappe, who I play as a shadow striker, or Rafinha at attacking mid, right? Even the center forward, who is that, Kiliskoy, I don't speak Turkish. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But anyways, they all look good, but not quite worth it. Hence why I went for this pack here, right? Now in this pack, you have Fortress on Rudiger, who's already an outstanding center back with the ability to double boost. Aerial Fort for Rojo, which means in the box he's got a better chance of winning balls, so you can really focus on shutting down opponents who are cross heavy. And then the Visionary Pass, which any players receiving a pass from him get boosted skills, which is excellent. And all three of these players, I can speak from experience because I packed them all, were well worth it, right? But you don't know that when you're packing them. That's why I strongly suggest you wait a bit. Wait until someone reviews these players or there's something on them. There might be something that you weren't considering, right? Because once you put in that money, and then you have this player, and at that point it's like, okay, now you're stuck with them. Are you going to play them or not? So it's better to make 100% sure you want these players. I can tell you, I won't be switching out a Rojo or Rudiger for a long time. As far as my deep lying playmaker, I always have one of those in any formation I play. That's just a given because I think they're so important. Alexis McAllister is amazing. I won't be removing him for a long time, so it was well worth it to get all three of these players. I actually packed Rudiger and McAllister at first, and then I decided, okay, that's it. After that, there were 60 players left, right? Because before I put in $50 at once, I had done some $10 at a time spins. I decided that's why I have 1630 left to put in X amount of coins and try to get a Rojo. Out of 60, I felt like maybe I could get him, and sure enough, the first time I did the first 10-player poll I did, afterwards, I get a Rojo, which is huge. So now I have a deep line playmaker and my two center backs covered. I had already got Maldini. And the one thing that you can say about spending money in this is once you have these players, you have them. It is not a yearly release where it resets. You have these players, and they are going to remain top players. You see all these beast teams that I'm playing against. I just played that, number 2 player in the world from the previous season, or at least ended the season as number 2. He had a squad full of great players, but my very best, my Rudigers, Arojos, and my Maldinis, all were right there with him, right? And so for me, it's well worth it because over time, like I said, this is my only quote-unquote vice. No gambling, no drinking, no smoking for me. Not judging you if you do, but that's how I can justify it, right? Would it be way smarter to save money? Absolutely, for everybody. But come on, everybody has some fun. For some people, it's going to concerts or going to movies or whatever. I put my money into this, and that's kind of my explanation. But if you have any problems with gambling or anything like that, you know who you are. Stay away from this game, period. As much as it's an awesome game, if you have any type of gambling problems, I mean it, stay away from this game. Because that addictive feeling, it does come in this just like it does in FC, okay? It's not worth putting yourself through that because you can end up spending a lot of money and really putting the hurting on your financial situation. So if you can control that, and you do have that money and you can spend it within reason, these amazing players, like they are truly amazing. It's not a gimmick. Like you can tell on the field, they are a step above. Now you can also still compete without them. I said this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it 1,001. You can still compete with those standard players. It's not that you can't, but yes, they do make a difference. Point blank, they will help you. They are, going to do things better than the standard players. Right? As they should, because they're meant to be special players. They're literally Showtime cards, epic cards. These are the best cards in the game. They're meant to do that. So that's that. I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail. As you see on the bottom, it talks about the nominating contracts, which I just spent my last one, but they would list them. And then you can see in the top right corner, Konami conveniently puts an area to shortcut to get the eFootball coins. So there you go, a second area where you can purchase those and conveniently come right back in. And as you can see, there's only 50 players left, right? So if you do the math, each of these 10 player selections is around, let's go back, 900 coins. 900 coins, which would be around 10 bucks, a little less than 10 bucks. Okay, so 50 more bucks I could have spent on that pack right here. So all in all, out of 150, I spent about 100 bucks to get these 3 players. Split that between 3, so 50 bucks each. I put about 50 to get Maldini alone, right? But then one day you might spend for one time or 2 times and put 20 bucks in and get all 3. That's where the gambling part comes in. Now you see what I'm saying, right? But since they don't go away and you're going to have these players for a long time, in my opinion, it's well worth the value. It's just you got to decide if it is for you or not. Now, leaving there, this last area, this you don't really click on until you see it highlighted. Every night, for me, it's 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So whatever that is for you, you can check. But you have the daily game. What you do is you'll click in when that thing, has the little number 1 or little red dot look for, and it'll show you click in, and you'll take 1 penalty kick every day. And when you make it, you go up several of these spots, almost like a board game. When you miss it, you still go up, but only a few spots. Every time you complete a lap, you get a free shot at a Didier Drogba card. Okay? You see the daily game details up in the corner there. If I just click start, what is daily game? This game is where you will be making your way through the spaces and earn various rewards along the way. So you see everything you need to know about is here. This tells you the rewards, right? So every time you get through, you see the chances, you see the training programs, right? And then lap reward overview. This is what I got. So you see where I got my Ribéry. These kind of things are how you will get players. This is the daily game box where you get a chance at Didier Drogba, get random booster tokens, things like that. So you see here I'm on lap, it says remaining 7, lap 5 reward. So I'm here. I get a chance deal. And then we keep going because remember, we're on the new season. We keep going, you get these rewards. So literally you make the PK, it just speeds up the process a little more, but even if you miss, you move some steps up. Simple as that. That's the only thing you'll do there, and that completes the entire menu section. You see we've been into every single thing, right? So last but not least now, game plan. I saved this for last because this in itself has a ton of detail, right? I started going into it earlier, but that will be cut out of the later videos so you don't just start for no reason. The game ended up freezing. It was a perfect time for a break. I don't know why it's been doing that lately, but it does come back. So if it freezes, don't worry about it. Wait a few minutes, or seconds I should say, and it will come back. So here's the screen. You see what this is. Obviously you have your formation. It's listed in the corners as a 4-2-3-1. You see my place down in the bottom right, the quick counter, sorry. You see my collective strength, which essentially the higher the better. It's just your overall players. That's the strength of the team. And then in the bottom right, you can switch from the player, the bigger card screenshot of the player. And then the player's basic info, height, weight, age, his live updates grade, and then the dominant leg he is, right? If you want the live date rating for everybody without scrolling through, you just click square, right? And then you see basic info, you go back, basic info. Why this is important is anybody D and below, you want to put on the bench. As you see Gnabry, Salah, you don't want to put them in. Then, once you start everybody who either has A, B's, or C's, you go into the game, and there's another time. You go into game plan, you press square again, because every game, players are in a different condition. Now, I can't show you that, but it's the same concept as the grade, only the arrows, you want them pointing in the upwards direction, or at least kind of diagonal but upwards. If they're pointed anywhere down, you don't want to start them. Sub them out. Okay? So for instance, you see Gnabry has a D here. But then we start the game, and I go in and I look at my subs, and I do the condition. I press square. Gnabry's condition could be like green arrow pointed up. So now he can come in, and he won't play, worse off attribute-wise than everything else, right? So it's super important to do that. I forget sometimes still because this is unique to eFOOTBALL. Now, we'll go in order from over here. You see the manager, You can change your manager in here, right? I only have Gasparini because that's all I need for the 2 play styles I play, quick counter and long ball counter. Then you can go to formation change. This is almost irrelevant. If you want to just look at that, get an idea of the starting positions for these, right? You can see here, players will change. But honestly, at the end of the day, the setup you make is based on this. I go back, right? I can go to my player, I hold down X, and I can move them wherever I want. The highlighted green area is where they're most proficient in. If there's just a green area but not highlighted, they can play there, and then they can't play in any unhighlighted areas, right? You don't want them to play there. So for Rafinha, I got him right now as attacking mid. He cannot play striker or shadow striker, but he also could play left wing or left mid, and he can play right wing, but not right mid. So look for that on your highlighted players, okay? So formation change is kind of irrelevant. Team play style is where you can choose all this and get all the information. So for a quick counter, for instance, it shows you when attacking, when defending, after you gain possession, after you lose the ball, and you can read all this and get a perfect understanding of what each and every one of these does. So as you see here, we start off with quick counter. You see the setup of my players, and it ends up being a 4-2-3-1. You go to individual instructions. There's several, but I'll give you my example. For defensive, you can instruct a player to not, push forward. Sorry, for defensive, you can instruct a player to not push forward. So I would go defensive, click in, right? And any of my players, I can instruct them. They will refrain from pushing forward in offense, right? Then offensive, you can instruct a player to push higher up the pitch, higher than usual. There's some players who will take a center back and make them attacking through choosing to make them offensive. Some players will choose a wing back, right? And then you have 2 slots to do this. You see on both of my offensive sides, I go with anchoring. I'll explain that. But you can have a player refrain from pushing forward. You can have players push forward that otherwise wouldn't, defensive players. Then anchoring. What anchoring is stops a player from moving left or right from their position. So as you can see, for me, I have both of my defensive midfielders, McAllister and Diashimi, centered, and with anchoring, it will literally anchor them, just think like a boat anchor. They will try to win the ball in and around that central area, but you won't see them flying all over the place, out wide, up, They will stay mainly in their positions there. McAllister will push up a little bit. I could make them refrain from it, right, if I made them offensively, I can make them defensive and refrain from pushing forward. But then I would only have one other spot to do anchoring. You can't do unlimited amount of players. Defensively, I leave these 2 spots open, but you could either put one of your players on deep line, one of your defensive players, or it could be an wing midfielders, attacking midfielders. You can even bring Haaland back, and they will drop back and join the center or the backs and become almost like a 5-back. They'll become another center back, which is kind of insane. I didn't realize you could do Haaland and all them. I've done this before with one of my defensive mids. But basically, if you see deep line, it just means one of your players will join the defense and your defense will become like a 5-back. You can actually see at the bottom where it says it also cannot be assigned to a midfielder when playing with a 5 at the back, because then you would turn it into a 6 at the back, which is crazy. Counter target would be someone staying up close to the opponent's end. Like, that's all they're doing. They're not worried about coming back at all. I've done this previously with Haaland, and I didn't like it because I felt that there were times when I was trying to work the ball up, and this pushed him even further to where when I would play certain balls, their defense would easily snuff it out. So that's actually why not only do I not have Haaland as a counter target, but you see here, I have him drop back a little bit. He could be pushed further up, but I want him there to flick on headers, to be able to make runs, but also come back to the ball and not get stepped in front of every time by the defenders. And the other reason why I leave the 2 defensive ones open is because in the game plan section, which you want to go to every single game, you go in, you get 2 whole minutes, and that's because you want to go in a game plan, you want to check your opponent's team, see how they're playing, make sure you don't want to tweak anything, and you'll learn more how to read that as you go. I'll definitely do a video on that and what I've learned about that. But you leave defense 1 and 2 open because then only in the game plan section you can either go to man marking or tight marking. Now, man marking, you can literally have Rudiger and Araujo man mark, I don't know, their Mbappe and their Haaland if they have them. Or whoever it is, but you can literally choose 2 players to be man marked. However, it's strongly encouraged, based on what I learned, that you should go tight marking if anything. You can leave these blank and it will be just fine, but at most go tight marking. Say the other team has 2 strong strikers, you got to go tight marking, right? Say the other team is playing like a 4-3-3 or something, they have 3 essential forwards. You probably don't want to tight mark 2 and just leave 1. You probably just want to, stay regular, or maybe just tight mark the striker, right? Because when they're tight marked, they're going to take priority of defenders coming close and being tight on them. You could end up mistakenly leaving a player, wide open who you don't want to leave wide open. Maybe if not wide open, but definitely not as much attention paid to them. But I do like going tight marking, particularly in like a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 or something like that. Either on the frontmost player, the frontmost striker, center forward, whatever, or sometimes the 2 strikers, right? So that's that. Moving into sub-tactic. This is super important. The reason why this is super important is because when I didn't have this on, right, then I could use my formation. I could go attacking, all-out attacking, defense, all-out defense, similar to how it used to be in FC before they changed it, right? But that would be within my own tactic. Now that I have a manager that I can use 2 different play styles in, and I could do it even without that, right? You could have 2 different long ball counter formations. I'm not saying it has to be a different play style, but now I'm just saying now that I have a different play style, this came in handy big time for me. Because what I do is I start off with the formation you see with quick counter, and that's what my opponent sees and thinks that I'm playing, but then I quickly hold the D-pad down or up. You'll see where it says defensive, which I don't know why it doesn't say sub-tactic, but it will say defensive, and it will say offensive for this, your regular tactic. But this is what it will change to in game, right? Instead of just pressing down once or twice or pressing up once or twice to get all-out attacking or all-out defense or attacking, if I hold up the up arrow or down arrow, I'll turn on this sub-tactic, and this is how my players will play. And they will be using this play style, right? And then from there, you can make this position attacking or defensive or whatever. But this is a sub-tactic it will switch to. And then you can see here there's their own set of instructions, in which for me, I only want Daishimi anchored and not drifting left or right. In this setup, I do not mind if McAllister, moves up or drifts a little bit to help out, right? So this is actually the setup I have, and this proves to be valuable because the opponent is man marking or tight marking or setting up their system based on what they see. A lot of the best players obviously will wait to see what you use and what you change to, but many players forget or don't do it. At the very least, you can make them work to figure out what you're playing, right? Don't let them just know and then they can easily go adjust their team. Make them work for it, right? So there's that. Regular tactic, sub-tactic. Regular tactic, sub-tactic. Quick counter, long ball counter. Quick counter, long ball counter. Only way I could do that because I have Gasparini, who's proficient in 2 different playstyles. So that's all of that down to individual instructions on sub-tactic. So we go back further, and that's everything in tactics. All right? Now edit positioning. Okay, so that's that. Just had to read some real quick. So here you can literally auto-pick your players, and it will do that for you, right? It will pick the best players based on stats and stuff like that. In match roles, you can choose who your captain is. Mine's Maldini. You see at the bottom, by the way, you can choose the recommended players for each of these roles, which is what I did, except for captain. It keeps putting Caicedo. I put Maldini, right? You want to make sure, a little side note, that whoever your captain is, they have the captaincy skill set, because it matters for boost. Automatic match support. I used to have this on and this on. I turned them off. That was a no-no. But as I was learning the game, I was like, why not? And you can choose substitutions. Then, let's say that I want them on. You can choose to do very early subs, flexible or very late. Obviously, I have it off and I manually sub. Just if you do this, make sure you don't forget to sub your players because it will make a difference when they're out of energy. You can do your own offside trap by clicking the left or right arrow twice, depending which way you're going. I think it's either that or it's always click the right, not click, but press double tap the right D-pad arrow, or double tap whichever direction of the way you're going, whichever one of those works. Tech defense level, I have that off. I'll change that on my own. I don't want the AI changing it. And preset tactics, same with this. It says choose whether your team automatically changes its preset tactics during matches, meaning it will switch between offensive, which is your regular, and sub-tactic, which you see here. It says and sub-tactic, which is defensive as necessary, depending on the match situation. So it looks like maybe they chose offensive and defensive as the names instead of regular and sub, because this regular formation was meant to be your main formation, and then like say you scored a goal or something, you go to your more defensive. Even though that's not the case at all at how it's used, that's probably why that's the explanation for it. You can choose any player numbers, including into the triple digits. As you see, all of my legends, heroes, icons, whatever you want to call them, all of them are rated in the triple digits. And you can choose any number of those. I thought that was pretty cool. And Thibaut Courtois, not a legend, but if I want to make him 100 instead of 1, I can. Just a little tiny detail. It's pretty cool. Right, so edit number. Base team settings. You can go in. And once again, the game froze. But you go into base team settings, and this is basically like you choose Man United, I have LAFC or whoever, and that will be the main home and away jerseys you use, the stadium you use, right? So if you have a team with licensing like I had Man U before, then we played at Old Trafford, right? If you have Bayern Munich, then you play at Allianz or whatever. Next will be the game plan list. All that is just, it will say, like I call mine OGG1, OG Game Plan 1. It'll just have a list of the main information, but you can have different game plans, right? So say you have a ton of different players or you have a ton of different ways. Maybe I want an all-out crossing system. I can do a whole separate game plan for that, which I could switch to at any single time, right? But I really wish this frozen game stuff, I really wish it wouldn't happen. So cancel. We'll go in. Terrible timing. Obviously, I can cut this out of the video. But we do have more in the game plan area, so if you could just be patient. Once this comes back, we'll see. Now, gameplay-wise, not any issues at all. But for some reason, and this hasn't happened until today, so it's kind of a weird thing. But I'm going to have a little bonus section here because I'm going to show you where I can manually allocate those points that I removed from Rojo. As long as the game really does come back. Last time it did. We will see, though. There we go. Server timed out. Okay. It's not the internet, because the internet's been on this whole time. While this is loading up, I'll give you another little tip I learned. When you're starting up a new account, for any of you guys that haven't yet and you're dabbling, going back and forth on if you want to play or not, if you do, you can actually choose your starting country as Japan. It won't mess anything up as far as language or anything like that, and you can always change it after. But it's a literal, it could be a myth, but supposedly it's factual based on, like, I don't know if somebody did a test or whatever, many people did. But if you choose Japan, where this game originates, you get better rewards. Kind of crazy, but it's just either a myth or not. But if you want to try it out, it could be worth it. Why not, right? So going back into game plan, we made it through tactics. All right, we made it through team. I'll show you the game plan list just so you can see. OGG1, you see there the formation, the offensive quick counter, the defensive long ball counter, otherwise known as the starting formation, 4-2-3-1 with quick counter. The sub tactic is actually a 4-2-1-3 with long ball, I believe. Let me check though. Yeah, 4-2-1-3, 4-2-3-1. All right, so now team, we went all the way down. Substitutes, we'll get in there, and then reserves. I told you reserves are important because when you go to the live update, right, because I was getting rid of anybody that didn't make my team because I was like, why do I need them? They're just sitting in reserves. Well, here's why. If you have a bunch of players with D or certain players, you want to replace them with these players, you can, right? Obviously, Ruben Diaz would stay here because he has a D, but in the future he might have an A, and some players might have D's or F's. But one thing I wanted to show you is that when you come in here, right, which we'll go into that in more detail, I'll actually do that now. You see the top, the highlighted green is the positions the player can play. The green that's not highlighted is a position they're familiar with, they could play, but they're not proficient at it. And you can actually use, I'll show you here, these right here, position training, to then get them there. So I can make Rudiger proficient at left back, right? Now there's more details on this at the bottom, and it will tell you. This shows you which positions they can play. You can read all the information you want to read. This is an overview of the player's acquirable position proficiency. So for every player, it'll highlight. He can play defensive midfielder, right back, left back, and center back, right? But you see on the left back side, he's not. All position proficiencies have the same acquisition probability, right? On the left side, it's highlighted, but you see there, he's not at the highest level. Well, why is that? If you keep reading on, there are 3 levels of position proficiency, and they're displayed as follows on the diagram. Uncolored is low, right? So like if I put Rudiger at striker, that's considered low. Intermediate is the faded green, right? You see the faded green right there. Then, you see here, high is bright green. The maximum position proficiency that a player can have is high, the bright green, okay? If the acquired position proficiency is for a position of low or intermediate, the player's proficiency for that particular position will be increased by 1 level. On the other hand, if acquired position proficiency is for a position with a high level, the player will fail to learn the position for that particular position. Okay, so let me make this clear. Okay, let me read this next one to you, though. A player can have a maximum of 2 position proficiency slots, but some players may only have 1 slot or even none available. So they go on to explain how goalkeepers can have field players and field players can't be goalies. But other than that, I could literally add 2 if I wanted to make, they have to be adjacent too. I think it says that down here. Where's that at? They can be overridden, and you can read more about this later. But if I wanted to add this, and I really want Rudiger to have that highlighted green, the most proficient on the left back side, I can take a chance. Or he might end up getting, defensive midfielder on like a faded green. Or he might get right back on a faded green. Okay? If he gets left back, then that will turn to a highlighted green and he'll be the most proficient, which just affects like how they play in game. So it's very detailed and it's good to learn. You can see the height, weight, everything. The levels, 29 out of 29, that's what I was talking about where it says level training completed. If he says 25 out of 29, you would be able to go and do the level training, and now it's on manual, right? But you see here all the stats. You go down. He came with the dueling booster, but then I also was able to give him a second booster. That would be blank. And then you would go in here, and you go booster crafting. You can overwrite one. You can't overwrite the one they came with, but if I didn't like it, say he got shooting because it is random. I don't like their system, but it's random. Say he got shooting, well then I'd have to save up again, do another random booster, or save up 100 eFootball tokens, and then I could pick one. But if you see at the top, okay, you have a white with green, and then you have a green with white. You see the white with green has 20, the green with white has 0. The white with green, if that gets to 100, every 100 you get, you can select whichever booster you want. When the dark green with white on it is used, anytime you get one of those tokens, you can choose a random booster. It's just you never know what you're going to get. So that's the downside of that. You want more details on boosting? Here you go. You can read more details on the boost that your player gets and what attributes are boosted up. But here it tells you too. It doesn't tell you exact amount, but you see where the green dots are. That's from the boosters. Not only that, but when you go to booster crafting, just like all these, there's also more on the bottom. I told you, always look across the top and bottom. Across the bottom, press triangle to get the booster list. You can read every booster you can get, and you can read what attributes that booster gives you, and boost, actually. So, outside of that, player actions, we talked about player progression, which is part of this. That's where the points are, now that it's manual. Alright, we talked about, whoops, didn't mean to go in. Player details, player actions, talked about that. Skill training, this is where you can get extra skills. I don't have any available, but if I did, I'd click X and he would get a random skill. Now this is another one. See at the bottom, you see triangle. Here's the whole skill list and what they do. Now, do I want my center back to have sombrero, which enables a player to execute the flick turn and the sombrero turn? Absolutely not. It's pointless. I want him to have like aerial and stuff with defense, right? I want my attackers to have one-time shot, and maybe my wingers have heel trick, maybe not. But either way, you only get to randomly choose these, and they can be overwritten, but you might waste a skill token on something you don't want that you eventually have to overwrite. I'll give you an example. I haven't had the chance to overwrite it yet, but for Mbappe, right here I have sliding tackle. I don't need sliding tackle for Kylian Mbappe, but right now that's what I have. So eventually I'll go in here, I'll go to skill training. I can put one more in this slot, which is what I'll do first, right? And then once I get there, I'll override any that I don't want, which I like fighting spirit. Long range shooting is great. Pinpoint crossing is great since he plays a wing sometimes like now. And sliding tackle, it could come in handy, but I'd much rather have a different, skill set. And same with here. I'll just choose one. And if it's bad, I'll redo it eventually. But you earn those, and that's where you redo those. Okay? So then going more into player details, you go down. You see all their skill sets. Scissor feint, double touch, chop turn, chip shot control, all that. Additional skills are the ones that I told you that I added with the skill programs, right? Then the AI playing skill styles. Don't worry about the AI playing styles, because all this is when the AI is controlling that player, right? So you see he has Trickster, Agility King, all that. And there's actually a list, which you saw in the settings screen or whatever, where you can see all of this stuff, right? And it will include all of these AI playing styles and what they do. So you can still go somewhere and see those as well if you really want to know those. Down at the bottom, you see matches played. So for me, he's played 123 matches. He's got 80 goals, 38 assists. That is pretty cool because you keep these players, unlike unless you release them or even if you replace them, a lot of times they go in reserves. But unlike FC, where you keep a player, they keep the stats only as long as you have them. Then you sell them away and you don't know, right? I like all of this information. Like I said, I'm a nerd for this, and so I love the fact that you can scroll down and you can see Haaland's got 93 matches, 75 and 13. Mbappe had what? 95, 75 and 13. 123, so he's played more than Haaland. 80 and 38. So Haaland's obviously got a way better goals to game ratio. But anyway, that's all that. To finish up player actions, we talked about everything. Talked about position training. All you need to know about is this legacy transfer. So for here, I have Mbappe. I would click legacy transfer. Now, convert a player to a trainer. Select a player to be used for legacy transfer. The selected player will be erased from your team. So I clicked Mbappe. Then what I could do is go to any one of these players and essentially retire them, and then Mbappe would get their skills, which is why, let me see if there's anybody. Look, you see the ones down here, they won't do because nothing can be transferred. You see up here, if I transferred McAllister, Mbappe would get 96,747 experience points, and he would get 2 additional skills, right? And you see the cost is different, right, depending on the player and the skills they get. So to get McAllister would be 462,000 G points. To get Pedri retired and to take his skills, it would be 425K. So if there's a player that you no longer are using and it's worth this much GP, you can literally retire them and transfer both the experience points and any additional skills that player has, and it'll kind of guide you and tell you, right? And again, you can read more about this too, but that's where you would find that. That's the entirety of the player actions. Not to mention, this is where I can unlock, but obviously I want them locked because I don't want to go release players and accidentally release Mbappe. So this is where you would lock all of your players, and you can see that little lock right by the right of his picture. So that's everything. You can also read all these skills. I showed you where, as you see here, skill training, skill list. Scissor feint, double touch, flip flat. You can read all that. You see there, scissor feint, double touch, chop turn, and you can go in and actually know what all those are. And they do come in handy to know because they give you an idea, like edge crossing is a skill set that Gnabry has that plays out here. I know that he has this super effective, super accurate cross. So when Haaland's in, if I can get Gnabry in there, I know to look for that type of pass, right? I know that one of Mbappe's additional skills is long-range shooting. Therefore, he's got better chance of scoring from longer ranges. I'm going to shoot with him from longer range, whereas another player who doesn't have that, I wouldn't. So learn these. They're huge. They also help you with knowing what skills each player has, and you can go make sure you master those skills so you can utilize those skills in game. So all that stuff is important, and you saw the area within the settings where you can read all that. You can read the skill list right here, right? For anything that eFootball doesn't have doubled up or tripled up in different places to find, you saw in that beginning settings help section, right? You go to settings, you go where it says help, and it will have all the information you need for anything, right? So if there's something you're looking for and you can't find it, like along the bottom, like how you go into the skills training and see the skill list at the bottom, if you can't find something you're looking for on the bottom or top, you simply go in and you can find it in the settings page. So that's worth noting. Then we talked about reserves. You can change them out. Here's the substitutes, right? Same thing. You just see the live update, and you will be switching out players a lot. It's not like FC where you typically have your starting lineup, and maybe you switch out a player every now and then that isn't as good as you thought. But in this game, it's a whole team effort, right? When these players have Ds, right, you're going to be switching them out starting. When you go into player condition and they have an arrow pointed anywhere in the down direction, even diagonal but towards the down direction, you need to pull them out and start a different player. So these substitutes and even the reserves can come into handy. Reserves are not going to be on there on the bench during the game plan section. You have to move those reserves based on their grades here. And then based on the game plan part will be depending on which players start from the list of your starters and your bench players, right? So again, reserves, if you're going to switch them out, you do that before the game, like now. And then for your substitutes, anybody that's coming in for any of these players before a game would be, once you click player condition, anybody whose arrow is down, right? So that is that. That's all the details. There's the basic info. There's the grade. You see the manager there, right? And last but not least, the bonus thing I'll show you, and then we will be done with the eFootball Encyclopedia. Obviously, I'll chop this up and put together. This is a first take sort of thing, right? I didn't pre-record this with everything, so is it going to be rough around the edges? Yes, but does it still have all the information you need? Yes. So if you watch it live, great. But if you want to revisit this, you have the live to go to. And you could say, well, why don't you just keep that? It's there, or point to that. Well, unfortunately, the way YouTube is, they don't really organize things in a very good way. They aren't very detail-oriented like Konami, and therefore I want to make sure more people can access it. So I'm going to chop it and put it into videos. However, let's go into this bonus, which is player actions. Level training completed. You see, 27 out of 27. I did all the training for Rojo, but player progression. As you see, I have all 52 points. You see the overall rating because I pushed them all the way down. This is where if I went manual, every step of the way I would have been adding the points up. Now, though, I can go back and do it. I was not aware of that, so hopefully this helps some players who might want to change. So let's play with this a little bit, and you will be able to see, this is a very cool part that I did not know, and I'll do one as an example. The rest I will do, on a different stream. I'll probably end it and start it, because I want this encyclopedia stuff separate, so nobody gets confused or thinks there's the video is way longer than it is and there's that much info or whatever. So here, you're going to only want defending, aerial strength, lower body strength, dexterity, dribbling, passing. Shooting, it's up to you, but for center back, I don't really want it. Finishing, set pieces, maybe. Curling, maybe, but not really. So defending, let's just start off with a good old 10. Okay? And look at the attributes go up. So start off with a 10, right? And you see where he's at. Aerial strength, jumping, physical contact, and heading. That's very important. And he's also got aerial fortress. We're going to go with a 6 on that one. Okay? We'll change it to speed, kick power, stamina. Very important on the speed and stamina part, right? So we're going to go 7 there. Let's go ahead and go 8. Get him in greens. Dexterity, you're talking offensive awareness, don't really care. Acceleration, bounce. I do care about acceleration. So let's see what it would take to get that into the green. 5. Don't care about shooting, passing, and dribbling. We could split. So dribbling, you see ball control, dribbling, tight possession. Passing, low pass, lofted pass. So this one will go 3. Just get that low pass to 70. Dribbling, I would go, where is that? Ball control. Dribbling, ball control, dribbling tight. You never know. Maybe sometimes you might have to. So we'll go with that. Now, why on the last point? Oh, you can't have any at 0. You see here, I can't have any. Oh, you can. But why? Ah, I can't do the other ones. It's kind of strange. Huh. So it's either 2 there and 1 with shooting. So that's interesting. So I could still do passing only. But if I do 2, or if I do 0 there, then I could go not defending with Tim. I could do aerial strength. So I'm not really worried about my center back and his passing. I mean, what would that give him anyway? 69 and 63. That's not really going to change much, you know? Dribbling. Same with that. Ball control, dribbling. We probably do want that to be at least... I'll go ball control. We'll go 6 on that. The dexterity part, acceleration 80. Lower body strength. Speed 87, 80. So I'm okay with 85. I think that's what I'm going to go with, and we'll see how it works out. The defending part, tackles, progression. So with that, he's a 96 rated. Okay? So let's go with action, reset player progression, or restore previous settings, or there it is. I'm done, and now he's a 92 with all of his boosters. So this is what he looks like now, and you could play with this. It's not like I can go back in and do this all day long. Pretty freaking cool, if you ask me. I can't believe I didn't know that. So, ball control, 73 dribbling type of I didn't see him beforehand. I'll have to go look at that. But you see his heading's a 90, defensive, and everything's high on defense. 92 speed, 82 acceleration, 89 physical contact, balance 67. We might want to switch that up a bit. Let's see. Player progression. Which one's balance? You just go down until you see balance. Dexterity. So let's go. Aerial strength. Balance and acceleration. I don't like a big split, you know, if that makes sense. Dribbling. I'm okay with 5 there. Okay, so 8. 86, 83. Speed. See how this looks now. There you go. I just wanted the balance a little bit higher there. A little past 70, 89 heading instead of 90. But there you go. 101 to 104. So you see it changes the overall rating a bit. But let's see here. 91, 85 compared to 86, 77. So then 100, 100, 99, 93. He's got 92, 95, 96, 93. He didn't do any on ball control. So let's see his player progression. Nothing on shooting, passing, dribbling. So they did dexterity, 448, 15 defending, 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. So let's go back in here. 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. I want to do this right for you guys. He did 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. So then, if we want to, screw dribbling. 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. So defending 15. But it makes you, huh? 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. So let's try that exact one. 4, 4, 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. So you can go 14, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. 103. Player progression. 15, 8, 4, 4. Wow, so he got an extra point. 56. 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. 56. And the Rojo got 52 only. But he was only one away. 15, 8, 4, 4, all zeros. Make sure that's right. Player group progression. Yeah. All right, now let's compare them real quick. I'll go like this, go like this. And if you go to player details, you can see here all the info. So now let's compare them with how we did that. Heading, Araujo much better than Rudiger, so we might need to switch Rudiger's. 87, 86 acceleration, Rudiger's higher, or Araujo's higher. 90, 91 jumping, so close. So nothing crazy different. You see 100, 100 to 99. Okay. The only one I'd like to maybe switch, right, because I'm comparing two beasts to each other, is the heading part. Heading part. But where could I get on the into that for Rudiger? Player details. Sorry. Player details. Oh, that's why. Okay, player details, player actions, player progression. We want that heading up higher than 82. So you go in here. Where's the heading at? Wait till it highlights on the heading part. Heading, there we go. So 80 heading. So where could we fix this? We don't want speed or acceleration lowered. Okay. Defending. That's where we can maybe go boom. Heading. At least gave him a little bit. And just do player details again. And let's see for the heading. 84.92. So that's as good as we're going to get it. But you see there, 92, 84, 86. They're still close on speed. Obviously, Arojo's better. But you could do that for every player. I could do that for Maldini. I could do it for, let's see. Keep clicking the wrong button. That's why, because I had players highlighted. Details, player progression. And look at this. Every player that you boosted up. I cannot do it for Ferran Torres. I cannot do it for Holland. I can do it for, I don't think I do it for Courtois either. Yep. Every other player I can do it for, though. Pretty cool. So keep that in mind. You need to, Dave, stick around on this. I'm getting ready to come right back live and check out eFootball. I'm telling you, check out eFootball. If not FC, but yeah, you need to leave UFL, man. If that's ridiculous. That's how that game is, man. It's so negative. So, getting back to it, we're just talking about how lucky we are to be playing eFootball, trying to get people to join because this game's truly amazing. And so there you go. You can progress your own players. You can go back and switch it around if you did what I did and did automatic. If you did manual and you want to tweak some things, just know it's not set in stone. That will conclude our encyclopedia, including a bonus example on how to manually adjust your player progression. Know that you can always go back and tweak it too. I'm going to go ahead and hop off stream and do the rest of my players. When I do play again, I will be going live again. Possibly I will get in my FC champs, but I'm just having so much fun playing eFootball right now. I truly am. And I hope when somebody down the road goes to this video, I hope that this was very helpful for them because there is a lot of information in here. And even just the stuff that I learned along the way, like where to find a vast majority of the info, which is where I want to end at. Going to the extras, right? Going into help. Going into command list, you have all the commands. Going into general information, you can literally look up everything, right? And it will tell you playing style. It tells you that. Player skills. It tells you that. Player stats. Where was that? What I was telling you guys earlier. The AI is somewhere in here. The AI play styles you can look at, right? Authentic team versus dream team versus, you get what I'm talking about. It tells you about the league. Boosters, what they are. It tells you everything. Look at the AI playing styles I was telling you. Trickster, Agility King. It explains all of it. Everything you could possibly want. Those little tips that they're giving you at the beginning, before the match starts, all these will be in here. So, there you go. There's the encyclopedia. If you want even further information, get over to the settings section and go into the help section. It's literally the most detailed of any game, period. Not just football game, any game. Konami puts so much effort into the details, so make sure you utilize this. Again, I hope this was extremely helpful. Keep grinding, keep having fun, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Peace out. And make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I always forget that. Like and subscribe. Very important, very helpful, much appreciated.